You're watching Pastor Sean Condren's Office TV Network, where we have new, classic Christian TV shows, movies, Christian talk shows, and Sunday services from around the world for all ages and more. We are broadcasting live 24/7 here on www.pscotvnetwork.org. Thanks again for watching and supporting our TV network, live from our TV studio at Pastor Sean Condren's office.
This is Your Path, live, with Bishop Mark, live from Dallas Universal Life Church in Dallas, Texas.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. I'm your host, Bishop Mark Zorn, coming to you live from Dallas Universal Life Church here in Dallas, Texas, as we do every Wednesday night at 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern Time. Welcome to the show. I know what some of you are thinking. We're supposed to be out having a live shot today out in the world and seeing some beautiful scenery of Dallas. Unfortunately, that didn't happen today. A couple of our volunteers could not be here today. So I decided to stay in-house today when we go out there, I want to make sure we do it right. So I want to have all the help we can get. And with just a couple of us here, I wanted to make sure that we got the right show to you and didn't have any technical difficulties. So I promise that's coming. We'll get on the bandwagon and get out there for a live shot out in the world. Now that is coming also later on. Early in November, we're going to be doing a service live and a Bishop, Your Path Live, Bishop Mark live on the road. So that's coming up in early November. So make sure you watch out for that. Now, before we go any further, I do want to mention to you that you saw a disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. We are speaking about some adult-themed issues in this episode. So I would encourage any parents to use some viewer discretion on this one. Because it just probably for more mature adults, mature audiences for this one. Okay. Now, that being said, this is a talk show. This is an online, if you will, an online call-in show because it's called Your Path Live for a reason. It's your path. It's what it's about. It's you. So you want to talk about prayer. You want to talk about Christianity. You want to talk about faith. You want to talk about your life. You want to talk about your ups and downs. You want to talk about your good and bad. You want to talk about your relationships. Whatever it is you want to talk about, that's what I'm here for. That's what we're here to talk to you about. We're also here to pray with you and pray for you. We're glad to do that. I'm honored to do that with you. So don't hesitate to hit that link at the bottom of your screen and call in because that's what this is about. It's about you, and I want to hear from you. It's nice to hear me talk and talk about some good subjects here and everything, but I'd like to hear from you too. That's the whole point. We're here for you. It's your path for a reason. Okay, so here we go. We're going to discuss something today that is, guess, a topic that's been on the on kind of the forefront of a lot of things. It's kind of died off a little bit, but I decided to go ahead and talk about it now because I hadn't before, and I wanted to kind of get it out there as to where we stood on that. And again, if you have any thoughts about this, feel free to call in and talk with me. I'd love to hear from you. We're going to talk today about drag queens and transsexuals in Christianity. How they go together, how they don't go together, do they belong together, all those wonderful things. So let's take a look at that and look at it from a biblical standpoint, look at it from a modern standpoint, look at it from a conservative standpoint versus a more of a liberal standpoint. Let's kind of put it all together and see what we come up with here. Okay? All right. And many of you may remember a couple of years back when many states, Texas included, have proposed laws that basically criminalize drag and drag shows. Now, in Texas, the law actually went into effect for a short time before being struck down by the Supreme Court. Now, while on the surface these laws may have dealt with cabaret licensing and zoning issues, their driving impulse is clear. They represent yet another legal attack on transgender people and on performers who do drag, many of whom the bills sweep up with drag performers, though intentionally vague language about gendered clothing. A year of record-setting legislation restricting their rights and autonomy. But even with that in mind, compared to the myriad social problems facing America, focusing so much energy on drag seems absurd, at least if you're on the left. Irreparable harm results when preschoolers see drag queens wearing princess dresses and reading Hop on Pop at the local library. Really? It all feels like a stretch, even for religious conservatives. So why do these bills garner such emphatic support among those on the Christian right? Sociologists who study conservative Protestants' discussions of faith, gender, and sexuality believe the answer lies not so much in claims about drag performers and trans people, distinct but sometimes overlapping groups, as it does in conservative Protestants' own sense of themselves. In a 10-year ethnographic study of the religious experience of LGBTQ and allied conservatives, conservative Protestants conducted with Teresa Tobin, Don Moon, has noticed a number of seeming paradoxes. The all-powerful, all-loving creator of the universe is threatened by trans and intersex people's existence, even though Jesus had no problem with eunuchs. Pastors at a megachurch turned a blind eye to a married straight man hitting on women at church, but confronted a gay man whom they required to be celibate because someone had reported seeing him on a date, meaning eating at a restaurant with a friend who was a man. And Lisa, a 29-year-old lesbian from Texas, told us that growing up, she learned that being gay was the only thing that you ever, never wanted to be as a Christian. To me, I felt like the church thought it was the worst sin ever, higher than murder or something. Lisa and many others they spoke with learned from church that murderers can be forgiven, but being LGBTQ is uniquely unforgivable. Now, all of these paradoxes make more sense when you realize that for a lot of conservative Protestants, rigid gender roles are not just the traditional default, but a commandment upon which all of creation rests. More important, in practice, if not on paper, than the 10 Commandments, including loving God and neighbor. Southern Baptist Theological Seminary professor James M. Hamilton Jr. has said that complementarity, the belief that God assigns different complementary roles to men and women through biology, is like gravity in a story about a plane crash, the force that makes everything possible and gives life meaning. In the same book, SBTS President Albert Mohler calls gender complementarity the Bible's most fundamental revelation about what it means to be human. In a 2022 national survey conducted by the Public Religion Research Institute, 75% of white evangelicals reported that they felt strongly that there are only two genders, man or woman, compared to only 44% of adult Americans overall. Only 4% of white evangelicals felt strongly that there is a range of many possible gender identities. This helps explain why this group, compared to all other religious and non-religious Americans, are the most supportive of laws restricting transgender equality. But what about drag? The conservative Protestant worldview insists that differences between men and women are dictated by God and embedded in biology. And generally speaking, drag challenges this assumption, highlighting how masculine and feminine qualities can overlap, being more like a spectrum than a stark opposition. Drag reveals, in the words of social theorist Judith Butler, whom conservatives name-check despairingly more often than you might think, that gender is a copy of a copy for which there is no original. For centuries in Western culture, drag has played with gendered ideals, showing that some men can do the same things women do to look feminine, put on makeup, wigs, high heels, and push-up bras and shapewear, and walk and talk in feminine ways, and often approximate the feminine ideal more closely than many women. Drag plays with gender, revealing the invisible work that makes masculine and feminine seem like natural opposites. For conservative Protestants especially, this kind of fun, performative play highlights contradictions in their beliefs about gender. Take, for instance, this troublesome puzzle. Men are supposed to be the rational ones, but they are also supposedly naturally sexually aggressive, so much so that they can't be expected to control their sexual urges. Women are supposed to be passive and submissive, and yet they must curb men's sexual aggression and look pretty while doing it. Evangelicals may respond to these seeming contradictions by acknowledging that, of course, gender roles can bend, even as they hold firmly to their beliefs in the immutability of gender identity. Kelsey Burke has written about the thousands of evangelical users of Christian sex advice websites who troubleshoot their sexual problems with online communities of fellow believers. One of the most surprising findings from this research is that some evangelical men use these sites to ask questions about and gain validation for their interest in gender subversive sex acts, including pegging and wearing women's underwear. Now, if you don't know what pegging is, I suggest you go look it up on the internet. The logic these websites users presented was that if a man's wife knew about and supported his interest, thus affirming his identity as a heterosexual man, not some secret closet case, and if that man had prayerfully contemplated his sexual desires, then other evangelicals using these websites would not condemn such an interest. As one website user who was interested in pegging described on a message board forum, I was talking to God about it again, and I really felt the Lord say to me, I love what you and your wife have together. A Bible verse that the people in Burke's study constantly referred was Hebrews 13, chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4, rather. Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. In the words of Kevin Lehman, author of a popular Christian sex advice book, the Bible is amazingly free in what it allows and even encourages a married couple to do in bed. In other words, for some evangelicals at least, gender play is possible in private, as long as the wife affirms that the husband is a real man and man and woman unite in monogamous heterosexual matrimony. What a married Christian couple does in their bedroom is nobody else's business because God says so. Given these findings, it makes sense that conservative lawmakers see drag as inevitably sexualizing. Even their performances involve merely reading Green Eggs and Ham to a room full of children. The problem with drag shows for conservative evangelicals is that they are public displays of gender, sexual ones, even that challenge immutable gender differences rather than affirming it. For people who think gender is something that God sends people to hell over, it's not something to play with at all, at least not outside of the marital bedroom. And that's a big part of the supposed threat of drag story hour events, that kids will learn that gender isn't inherently sexual and that they can play with it too. Of course, anti-drag bills aren't protecting kids from anything other than the freedom to be themselves without having to constantly try to perform gendered ideals. And whatever God ultimately thinks about playing dress up here on earth, trying to control who does it says a lot more about the people seeking the control than the ones having all the fun. So what do you think? Does it rub off? Are the drag queens who are doing story time with the kids in the libraries wrong? Are they trying to recruit the kids into a certain lifestyle? I hope you don't think that. You know, in our church, we are accepting of all, because that's what Christians are supposed to be, first of all. And secondly, we believe that love can never be wrong. And when two people love each other, souls don't have a gender. So it's kind of a moot point here. And we do have, in fact, we have drag performers that attend our church. In fact, I myself did a benefit show in 1995 in drag for a benefit to raise money to help people with AIDS and their living situations and food back in 1995. And there was no ill or there was nothing negative about it. It was performances. It was acting. It was showing off. It was trying to bring some happiness to people around and to entertain them. I don't see anything wrong with that. Sorry. But some people do. And that's what we just talked about. Some of the conservatives who believe that this gender bending is not appropriate out in the world. It shouldn't be happening. So do we trample on the First Amendment rights and tell them, no, you can't do that? Or do we keep our eyes on our own paper and worry about our own problems? Last July, the world watched as Paris put on an extravagant opening ceremony to kick off the 2024 Olympics, showcasing a variety of French culture. The performances ranged from opera and ballet to heavy metal and hip-hop. Reviews were mixed, running the gamut from calling the show wacky and kitschy to dazzling and spirited. Most agreed, though, that the spectacle of the entire thing was impossible to peel away from. Months later, people are still talking about the ceremony, but probably not for the reasons that Thomas Jolly, artistic director of the event, had hoped. Toward the end of the ceremony, the camera captured a group of about 18 people gathered together on one side of a fashion runway. At the center of the group was a woman in a blue dress and a silver headdress, and flagging her on both sides was a diverse ensemble of performers, including drag queens from Drag Race France. Regardless of the intentions of the director, the imagery of the tableau, the halo-like silver headdress of the host, the long table, even the placement of the performers, evoked for many Christians Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Last Supper. Now, the Olympic Committee has since acknowledged and expressed regret that people felt offended by the opening ceremony. They also insisted that the tableau was inspired by the Feast of the Gods, a 17th century painting by Dutch artist Jan Harmens van Bilgert. Let me try it again. Jan Harmens van Bilgert, that hangs in the Magnan Museum in eastern France. But once a few prominent figures attacked the drag Last Supper, the idea was canonized. Within minutes, Elon Musk, CEO of X, formerly known as Twitter, posted that the tableau was extremely disrespectful to Christians. Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker, who made waves in May after delivering a commencement address at Benedictine College that many believe was sexist, posted a clip of the tableau underneath a passage from Galatians that said, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked." The next day, Mike Johnson, Republican Speaker of the House, seemed to agree with Butker. Last night's mockery of the Last Supper was shocking and insulting to Christian people around the world, he wrote, adding, perhaps predictably, that the war on faith knows no bounds. Musk's follow-up tweets reinforced the idea when he accused Christianity of becoming toothless and claimed that without bravery, Christianity will perish. Taken together, the criticism of the alleged drag supper sounds like a call to arms, which is certainly astonishing, given that the Last Supper is a testament to Jesus' commitment to peace in the midst of a violent empire. Jesus was remembered for commanding his followers to offer their left cheek to those in power, to bless those who curse them, to lay down their swords. Jesus doesn't need or want his disciples to defend themselves or him, and with good reason. When they do try to defend Jesus, like Peter did during Jesus' arrest, they fail terribly. Neither does God need defending. In fact, it's God who is the defender, God is on standby to rescue from the hand of the powerful all of those who have been crushed, including drag queens and other queer folks. For the past few years, some politicians in the U.S. have manufactured a war between Christianity and drag queens. From proposed laws banning drag shows on the grounds of indecency to outrage over drag queens reading to children in libraries, these politicians and their supporters have sent the message that drag is somehow at odds with the gospel. Drag queens have been talked about, and many of them would disagree with this assessment, as if they were the new enemies of Christianity. But this is where the story of the Last Supper can begin to work on us. Jesus came into a world where codes of honor and shame organized and maintained interpersonal relationships. Jesus was consistently remembered by friends and enemies alike for his table-sharing practices, his habit of dining with people from different walks of life, from religious leaders to tax collectors. It was Jesus' habit of eating with sinners, what the Jewish annotated New Testament calls the socially derogated, that is consistently remembered throughout the Gospels. It's important to note that while many of these folks might have followed Jesus' advice and repented of their sins, this was not a requirement for joining the table in the first place. Whether the Last Supper happened exactly the way it's narrated, it seems like the stories are crafted to remind us of the huge role that Jesus' peculiar table fellowship practices played in his ministry. In other words, when we think of the Last Supper, we should remember that Jesus likes eating with people who we probably would look down upon. These practices cohere with the big picture Jesus painted of God's kingdom. The last shall be first. The outcast shall be given priority. The previously marginalized shall be given the first pour of veuve. In the topsy-turvy kingdom that Jesus is crazy about, all bets are off. There are going to be people feasting at God's table that you really just don't want to be there. The only person you should expect to be seated next to you in God's kingdom is the person you least expect to be there. And let's be honest, she'll probably be just as shocked to see you there. And what this means for the drag culture wars is that Christians who have been commanded to love and bless their enemies, who are called to follow in the footsteps of the one who opened God's table to everyone, should stop worrying about who's at the Lord's table and just pull up a chair. When they do, they might discover that the very drag queens they're afraid of can offer them helpful, fresh ways of approaching their Christian faith, beginning with Scripture. The Bible, after all, invites us to think about God and Jesus with a little help from subversive clothing. Here are a few brief examples. From the announcement that Jesus would be wrapped in swaddling clothing to his burial garments, the gospel writers want us to pay attention to Jesus' clothing. His wardrobe is a clue about who he is. Think of the hemorrhaging woman in Luke chapter 8. She's healed when she grabs the fringe of Jesus' garment. When Jesus feels some of his power leak out of him, he asks his disciples, "Who touched me?" Not his clothes, but me. The point being that the clothing is an integral aspect of Jesus' person. Who he is has something to do with what he wears, or rather, whom he wears. Not only does Jesus want us to pay attention to his clothes, he wants his followers to pay attention to their clothes. Take nothing for your journey, Jesus instructs his disciples as he prepares them to proclaim the kingdom of God. Not even an extra tunic. New Testament scholars have pointed out how peculiar this instruction would have been in the ancient world, since nudity existed on a spectrum. It's possible that if a body were seen publicly in an undergarment, it could have been construed as naked. At the very least, it would have looked out of place, perhaps even shameful. That Jesus was dressed this way is significant. Historian Joan E. Taylor has concluded that Jesus was considered dishonorable in terms of his appearance, and that he apparently did not care about this and asked his disciples not to care either. So Jesus' identity was constructed and communicated in part by clothing that was seen to serve a subversive, countercultural function. And this is different from drag. How? Drag queens send up gender by overperforming it in unexpected ways. This is precisely what Jesus does with gender divinity. He flamboyantly performs a shocking version of God in order to dethrone hyper-masculinized, violent, patriarchal notions of deity. Unlike earthly emperors, the God that Jesus performs, that Jesus wears, does not cling to power. He gives it up. He isn't in cahoots with the wealthy. His eye is on those who can't ever repay him. He doesn't rule with the threat of death. He promises life. He doesn't ride triumphantly into Jerusalem on a horse, but on a donkey. Talk about a campy mockery of Roman power. And of course, his table practices were another send-up of the prevailing culture. Contrary to the expectations of the honor-shame culture around him, Jesus welcomed the opportunity to share a meal with people whose personal lives were the talk of the town. I don't know that there were drag queens at any of those tables, but I'm positive that if Jesus were to show up today at an important televised banquet, both Speaker Johnson and I would be shocked, probably for very different reasons, at the group of diners he called together to celebrate God's abundance. What do you think? I know you have an opinion on this, folks. There's a link down at the bottom of your screen. Just call in and talk to me. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear what you have your ideas on this. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. I can see, as I discuss it and as I've researched this and gone through it, I can see the side of evangelical Christians. I understand where they're coming from. I get that. This notion of a man is a man this way and a female is a female this way. If that's engraved in their minds and just pounded into them from childhood on, I can see how they might think the way they do. Unfortunately, I think that their thinking is incorrect. God made us all different, including men and women, and very different in those sexual identities as well. No woman is necessarily like another woman, and no man like another man. We all have different levels of masculinity and femininity, of the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we act. We're all different. So to try and classify men as these sexual deviants that can't control themselves, and women as the ones who have to control them, I think is archaic and asinine, to be very honest with you. Just my opinion on that. I think God gave us a brain, and I think if you're stuck on that, if you're stuck believing that kind of notion, you're not using the brain that God gave you, in my opinion. So, I want to take a quick break because I've lost my earpiece. And just in case somebody calls in, I want to be able to hear them. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages. Good evening. Welcome back to Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. I'm your host, Bishop Mark Zorn, coming to you live from Dallas Universal Life Church here in Dallas, Texas, as we do every Wednesday night at 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern Time. We're glad you're with us. Thank you for joining us. We are a call-in show, and we don't always get calls, and that's okay. We're still fairly new, and we're trying to get the word out there. So if you aren't calling in, or if you have called in, tell your friends about us. Maybe they want to talk to us. What do you want to talk to us about? Well, we'd love to pray with you. That's one of the most important things I think we can do. I also would love to talk to you about your Christianity, your faith, your life, your day, your relationships. That's what I'm here for. This show is about you. And although we have a topic every week that we talk about, I encourage you to jump in and you can even talk to me about the topic. If you have something to say about the topic we're talking about, today's kind of a controversial topic we're talking about. I'm sure that I will hear some, if not some phone calls in a second half hour here. We might hear some calls or some letters or some writings later on, and that's okay, because that means people are thinking and people are using their brains. People are debating things and talking about it and offering their ideas and I think we learn from each other that way. I encourage debate amongst people. I don't necessarily encourage arguing, but I encourage debate. Healthy debate is a way of learning. It's a way of seeing things a different way. It's a way of opening your mind. And so I encourage that, and I encourage people to call in and if they have another view of what I'm talking about, please call in. I'd love to talk to you. I won't berate you or put you down. I'm not that kind of person. I want to hear from you. I want to learn your side and try and understand it. And I think if we understand each other and kind of put each other in each other's shoes a little more often, this world becomes a different place. If we can look through each other's eyes every now and then, the world becomes a much different place. And I think we ought to strive for that. So, like I said, there's a link at the bottom of your screen. It says "Need prayer." Join by going to. Just dial in that HTTPS address there on your browser, and you'll come on in and we can chat and do whatever you like. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's what we're here for. Your path with Bishop Mark. Okay. So today we've been talking about drag queens and transsexuals and the Christian church. How does it fit together? It's part of it's part of our culture today. Believe it or not, it is part of our culture. There are drag bars and drag shows, and I'm going to tell you straight up. I personally bought a drag, if you will, a drag competition last year because in my way of supporting drag queens and female impersonators. It's called Texas Entertainer of the Year. It's a nationwide competition. It goes into a nationwide competition called Entertainer of the Year. And we're getting ready to go to that competition in Louisville, Kentucky in November. So, I know a lot of these performers personally, many performers personally. My first partner was a female impersonator. We were together 16 years. So I can see it. I very much can see it from that point of view, and I can understand it. And like I said, researching this and looking at some of the whys that the evangelical Christians believe the way they do, I can see it from their point of view too. I just wish that the whys were not there because they're not, in my opinion, they're not correct. I think that needs to be looked at. Somebody needs to modernize their teachings. I'm not saying that they need to go and overhaul everything. I just think that, look, we have learned a lot as a community, as a world, as a people, since the time of the Bible being written. And understand this, the Bible is also, yes, inspired by God, but also went through many human hands before it is what we have today. The word, just to put out there, the word homosexuality didn't hit the Bibles until 1950s. When somebody decided it belonged there. The word homosexuality there was no translatable word for it in Aramaic or in Greek or in Hebrew. So you have to take that into account, folks. You've got to use your brain that God gave you. If God didn't want us to think and ask questions, he wouldn't have given us the brain he gave us. And I think that if you just go, well, so-and-so said so, or the Bible says this, and you take it literally every time, or if preacher this, that, and the other, and bishop said this, and you've got to use your brain, folks. Don't be lazy. If you're just relying on what somebody else said and not checking on it yourself, you're being lazy. I say that is in your religion, in your in voting. Look, we're fixing to have an election come up here in the United States. It's very important. And so many people still go in and write, check the Republican box or check the Democrat box, straight ticket. When you don't know, A, who those people are, you haven't researched them, you don't know what they stand for, and then they get into office, they start doing what they said they were going to do, and you start complaining because they're not doing what you wanted them to do. Well, you know what? They're doing exactly what they said they were going to do, and you should have checked on that before you voted on them. It's that simple. You shouldn't vote if you aren't informed enough to know what you're voting for. Voting is a privilege. And it's sad that so many people just are so lackadaisical about it and just check. Well, my parents were Republicans. My parents were Democrats. Come on, folks. Think for yourselves. And if you can't come up with it in your head, if it's not coming clear, ask God. He does speak to you. Literally, he will speak to you. You think he would put us on this earth with the ability to communicate and pray and ask him things without him having the ability to tell us back, to talk to us back and help us guide us? Come on now. That would be pretty stupid. He's a father to us. Fathers speak to you. Fathers guide you. Fathers hug you and hold you and teach you and point you in the right direction, get you on the right path. That's what they do. And that's what he does for us. Okay, so call in. There's the link at the bottom of your screen. If you'd like to call in and talk to me, I'd love to hear from you. Let's go on with this now. I want to talk about drag queens and theology, about us navigating church culture wars. So it'll be interesting. Are drag queens and Christianity compatible? The question has been a source of debate for years, with some churches embracing drag performances as a form of worship, while others condemn it. Oh, my mouse doesn't want to work now. It's always something. Let's see if we can get this to work. Bear with me, folks. I'll get this. Maybe. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm trying. We'll get there. I'm trying to reopen it again. There we go. Maybe this will work now. Okay, there we go. I don't know why it's acting like that, but that's really weird. Okay. Close this out. Hold on a second. I'm going to reboot this little page here so I can pull it up the right way because it's doubling up on me. Oh, Lordy. It's not one thing, it's another. Just close this out completely. Start over. One more time. The miracle of computers is wonderful, but there are times that it just doesn't want to work in your favor. So you just have to deal with that. And luckily I have this bookmark, so it shouldn't be a problem to find it. Hopefully. There it is right there. Okay. Let's see if I can do this right now. There we go. Okay. However, for many drag queens, their performances are a way to connect with God and feel closer to their faith. So, is there a place for drag in the Christian church? And let's explore this intersection and discover how it's creating a more inclusive and diverse community. The intersection of Christian church and drag queens has been a topic of discussion for decades. I think I already said that, didn't I? Okay. While some churches have embraced drag gospel and even ordained drag queen clergy, others reject it outright. Some congregations are welcoming gay men and drag queens into their worship services, while others have banned them. I have a problem with that, banning anybody, but okay. Despite the controversy surrounding this intersection, many drag queens see their performances as a form of worship and a way to connect with God and Jesus Christ. In fact, some churches have even incorporated drag performances into their Sunday services, with St. Mark's United Methodist Church in New York City being one of the pioneers in this movement. The purpose of this intersection is to create a more inclusive and diverse church community that welcomes all individuals, regardless of their gender identity or sexual orientation. This idea is not new. John Wesley himself believed that Christians should be accepting of all people, regardless of their background or beliefs. I believe that that's what Jesus Christ said we should do. While some may view the inclusion of drag queens in Christian worship as sacrilegious or inappropriate, it is important to remember that the Lord Jesus himself welcomed all people into his presence. As Christians, we are called to follow his example and love our neighbors as ourselves. Drag queens have been an integral part of LGBTQ plus culture for decades, and their presence in the Christian church dates back to medieval times. Despite the historical persecution of LGBTQ plus individuals by religious institutions, many drag queens have found acceptance and even a sense of spiritual fulfillment within the church. However, the relationship between the Christian church and drag queens is complex and multifaceted. One reason why drag queens have found acceptance within some churches is because they are seen as embodying certain Christian values such as compassion, empathy, and love. Drag performances often involve elements of storytelling, humor, and satire that can be used to convey important messages about social justice issues such as racism, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia. In this way, drag can be seen as a form of prophetic witness that challenges dominant cultural norms and promotes greater understanding and inclusivity. Moreover, some churches view drag as a form of artistic expression that allows individuals to explore their creativity and celebrate their unique identities. For example, Metropolitan Community Church, otherwise known as MCC, which was founded in 1968 specifically to serve LGBTQ plus Christians, has long embraced drag as an important part of its worship services. MCC's founder, Troy Perry, has said that drag is just another way people express themselves. We don't see it as anything sinful or wrong. The first church that I worked at when my early career as a minister, was a Metropolitan Community Church in Minneapolis called All God's Children Metropolitan Community Church. Wonderful church, wonderful organization. Not all churches are accepting of drag queens. Some conservative denominations view drag as immoral or sinful because it involves men dressing up in women's clothing or performing in ways that challenge traditional gender roles, which we discussed earlier. These churches often cite biblical passages such as Deuteronomy 22, verse 5. A woman must not wear men's clothing, nor a man wear women's clothing. Or 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9 and 10. Neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who have sex with men will inherit the kingdom of God. Despite these objections from some religious leaders and congregants, there are many examples of drag queens who have found a home within the Christian church. One such example is the Reverend Dr. Cameron Partridge, an openly transgender Episcopal priest who has also performed as a drag queen under the name Ms. Penny Cost. In an interview with the Huffington Post, Partridge said that drag is about playing with gender and identity. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about celebrating who you are. Another example is the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, a group of drag nuns who use humor and satire to raise awareness about HIV and AIDS and other social justice issues. Founded in San Francisco in 1979, the Sisters have since spread to cities around the world to become an important part of LGBTQ plus culture. And I encourage you, if you've never seen them and they come to your neighborhood, go see them. They're funny. They really are. They're a hoot to watch. As a recovering Catholic, it's interesting to see. I want to move on a little bit further here, just a moment, please. Now, the word queering is a term used to describe the act of disrupting heteronormative structures and celebrating non-conforming identities. Queerness challenges the gender binary and embraces a spectrum of gender identities beyond male and female. It is an umbrella term that encompasses a wide range of identities, including but not limited to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, aromantic, agender, collectively known as LGBTQIA+. And that's a big alphabet full of words. Pronouns play a crucial role in affirming queer identities and should be respected, and used correctly. Using someone's correct pronouns is an important way to show respect for their identity. For example, using they, them pronouns for someone who identifies as non-binary, or she, her pronouns for someone who identifies as female. It may take some time to get used to using different pronouns than what we are accustomed to hearing or using ourselves, but it is essential in creating inclusive environments. The Christian church has historically been a site of exclusion for queer individuals. Many churches have preached messages of hate toward the LGBTQIA plus community, which has led many people feeling unwelcome or unsafe in religious spaces. However, there are now efforts being made by some churches to create inclusive spaces where all individuals are welcomed with open arms regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Celebrating queer identity within the church can lead to a deeper understanding of God's love for all people Embracing queerness with the church can also challenge harmful patriarchal structures and promote greater equality for all individuals. By embracing diversity and inclusivity within religious communities, we can create safe spaces where everyone feels welcomed and loved. One example of this is the Reconciling Ministries Network, which works toward full inclusion of LGBTQIA plus individuals within the United Methodist Church. The RMN is a grassroots organization that advocates for the LGBTQIA plus individuals and their allies within the church. They provide resources, training, and support to help churches become more inclusive spaces.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, I hear Don. There he is.
What?
I'm sorry, Don. I didn't have you on the screen there. How are you?
I'm good, but I'll be better.
You'll be better? What's going on?
Yeah. You name it, I'm doing it. I've been given an ultimatum. I have to be out by the end of the month. I don't have my house key. I don't have my driver's license. I don't have anything. And she's telling me to get out. And
Okay.
I'm not going nowhere. Put it that way. I locked up all my credit cards and all that, and I got taken care of it. I got to go to the Social Security office. I got to go to the driver's license place to get my driver's license before I get the Social Security card. But I have to have my birth certificate to get the driver's license and the Social Security card. But you have to have Social Security card to get the driver's license. You get what I mean?
Right. Oh, I get it. I'll go through the
And
same
so
thing with my name change. Trust me, I understand.
okay. So
Take a
about an hour
breath.
ago, she walks in the kitchen and she says, "I want you out by the end of the month." Hee hee ha ha. Little does she know I can't go anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere. I just wanted you to pray for me. Make sure I just need to be strong, okay?
All right, Don.
And I'm sorry I didn't make it down there, but if I leave this house, she's gonna lock me out.
Well, she can't do that.
And I don't know. I know that. But that was her.
You
That
know
was
she
her.
does. You have recourse. You understand that, right? I know you don't want to go through all that. This is your relative we're talking about. And I understand it. I get it. You don't want that kind of battle. I get it. I understand.
But I'm gonna have to.
You're gonna
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to get a lawyer. And when she finds out what I know, she's gonna shit a brick.
Hey.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. She's gonna have a cow. Put it that way.
Right.
I just don't know what to do. I don't.
Well, you do what you
Oh
think you should
God.
do is right. That's what you do, and you pray on it.
I'm gonna do what's right. I am. I'm gonna do what's right for me. She says I don't care about her and the girls, and I don't give a crap. You know. But that's not it.
Well,
It's just
we all know better than that.
when you've been treated like crap, you're gonna act like crap. So I'll let her know this. The day I changed my mind about being here for her was when she put her own damn son out. Case closed. She's going,
A lot
"Oh,
going on. A lot going
you need
on.
to get all this junk. You need to get all this junk out of my house. You act like a pack rat." I went, "No, I'm not." I said, "Let me tell you something. Most of this stuff in here is my clothes and my sewing machine and my materials I use to make my costumes. But you know what? I'll get it out of her house. But I'm not going anywhere. I just need to pray to help me be strong. I gotta be strong to get through this."
There's a
And I
lot
love
going
you.
on
I would have
with
been
you right
down there,
now.
but I love you. I can't leave this house.
I understand.
And I don't want to be
I got
stuck in
you.
this house with her for 2 weeks.
Well, soon, hopefully, because we want to get a live shot going out in the beautiful outdoors before it gets too cold.
I know.
So.
I was supposed to be there today to help you. I was supposed to be there. I know.
Right.
I know. Sean, I'll
Well,
try to get down there. We'll do it next week.
We've got live shots
We
coming up
can do
when we
it
go to Louisville. When we go to Louisville, we're going to be doing a live show Wednesday from on the road, and we're also doing a Sunday
Are
service
you
from
really?
on the road also. Oh yeah, we have to.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Okay.
Yeah. I know you missed part of the service Sunday, so we talked about that. Yeah, we Sunday. So there's a Sunday that we're going to be gone, right? Because we're there till Saturday night, so Sunday we'll be gone. We'll do service Sunday at 3:00 from somewhere on the road,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Wednesday of that week also we'll do Wednesday Your Path Live with Bishop Mark on the road somewhere. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think that'll be interesting. Who knows where we're going to end up?
It will be, won't it?
So
That'd be cool.
okay,
I'll
yeah,
have
I
to
think it'll
watch
be fun.
that.
Make sure you
Okay.
watch. Make sure you watch. All right, let's do this, Don. Let's take a deep breath first, okay? I want you to do that, and then let's pray about this. All right? Okay. Bow your head with me.
Okay.
Father in heaven, I come to you today with our brother Don, who's having some issues with his family, and just we know how family gets. We know how it can be with family. It can be tough. There's so much love there, but boy, we can get on each other's nerves. And we can. We're family. That's what happens. We do that. We're human. But Father, I ask that you offer patience to both parties involved here. I ask that you offer understanding to both parties involved here. And I ask that you offer to open up a communication line between them that is not filled with strong emotions from one end to the other, that is filled with intelligent thought and facts, and really being grounded in what they're talking about. Father, I ask that you help these two individuals who love each other very much, a niece and an uncle who have been together all of their lives. I ask that you let the love of family hold them together and help them to do the things that are right. Help them to see the benefit of each other. Help them to see that they need each other. And they do. Father, I ask that you just help the fire to burn down just a little bit. Bring it down to a low roar, and help them to just speak with clear minds, with open eyes, and with just thoughts. Not these emotional thoughts that just make you go kind of crazy, but the thoughts that are just grounded in truth. Father, I ask all of this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you.
Of course, Don. Hey, keep your head up. Keep your head up and try not to let the emotions take you over. Don't say something you're going to regret. You know how that goes. Some of you
I
got to bite our
already
tongue.
did.
And I know I'm
I
horrible
know,
about
I
that.
already did.
I'm bad about not biting my tongue. But it's the only advice I can give you on that. I know it's tough. But I'm here for you. You can call me
Okay.
anytime. Okay?
I will. I'll
Keep
call
your
you
head up.
later.
All right, man. See you
All
later.
right.
Hey, we're talking
Bye.
about drag today.
I've been listening.
All
If
right,
somebody
Don. See
look,
you later.
someone who knows, I've been listening. But it's good. Thank you.
Can I tell him what you do? Can I tell him? Can I say
Yeah,
it?
yeah. It's cool. Yeah.
Don is a female impersonator. Also, he actually impersonates Tina Turner. He's the vice president of our church. So, if that tells you anything, that's where we are on the topic here. So, that's I didn't want to
Toothless
have
and
his permission,
all.
but there he is. Yep, he does it all. Toothless and all. I love it. All right, Don. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
God
I
bless
will.
you.
I'll call you.
All right. Good old Don. Okay. Let's see if I can find my spot again. Okay. Here we go. I want to try and finish this up. We've got about 6 minutes left, and I want to try and get most of this in. I don't think I'm probably going to get all of it in, but we're talking about the Metropolitan Community Church, what we were talking about just now. Now, statistics show that the acceptance of queer identities is growing among younger generations. According to a study by GLAAD, 20% of millennials identify as LGBTQIA+, compared to only 5% of baby boomers. This shows that attitudes toward queerness are changing and becoming more accepting over time. Now, using drag performances to challenge assumptions and promote acceptance. Drag performances have been around for centuries, but it wasn't until the 20th century that they became a popular form of entertainment. Today, drag performances offer a unique way to challenge assumptions and promote acceptance by breaking down traditional gender roles and stereotypes. Drag queens and performers use their art form to offer new possibilities for self-expression and identity, encouraging people to embrace their true selves and embrace and reject societal norms. By taking action through public events and performances, drag performers create a sense of community and belonging for those who may feel marginalized or excluded, while also educating the public on the importance of acceptance and diversity. One of the most significant ways that drag performances challenge assumptions is by breaking down traditional gender roles. Drag queens often exaggerate feminine traits such as makeup, high heels, dresses, wigs, while drag kings tend to exaggerate masculine traits such as facial hair, suits, tuxedos. The exaggeration helps to highlight how arbitrary gender roles are in our society. By portraying exaggerated versions of femininity or masculinity through their performances, drag performances show that there is no right way to be male or female. They challenge the idea that certain behaviors or interests are inherently masculine or feminine by showing that anyone can embody these traits regardless of their biological sex. Another way in which drag performances promote acceptance is by encouraging self-expression. Many people feel constrained by social expectations about how they should look or act based on their gender identity. Drag performers offers an alternative vision where individuals can express themselves freely without fear of judgment. Through their costumes, makeup, music choices, dance moves, drag performers demonstrate that there are endless possibilities for self-expression beyond what is considered normal in society. They encourage people to embrace their true selves rather than trying to fit into narrow boxes based on gender or other social norms. Drag performances also create a sense of community and belonging for those who may feel marginalized or excluded. Many drag performers come from LGBTQ plus communities, which have historically faced discrimination and violence. By creating spaces where people can come together to celebrate their identities, drag performances offer a sense of safety and acceptance that is often lacking in mainstream society. Public events and performances are particularly important for this reason. They allow people to see that they are not alone in their experiences and that there is a larger community of individuals who share their similar struggles. This can be incredibly empowering for those who may feel isolated or disconnected from others. Now, finally, drag performances educate the public on the importance of acceptance and diversity. By showcasing different forms of self-expression and identity through their art form, drag performers challenge stereotypes about what it means to be male or female. They also provide a platform for discussing issues related to LGBTQ plus rights, such as marriage equality, employment discrimination, healthcare access. Through their activism and advocacy work outside of performances, many drag performers have become important voices in the fight for social justice. There's so much more to talk about this. I mean, there's so much out there. I think we're probably going to continue on this topic in a way next week. I think I want to probably talk a little more about this. We'll see. We'll see. What do you think? We had a caller today. I'm happy we got a caller. But what do you think? Feel free to write us an email. If you didn't call in today, you have something to say about it. My personal email, revmark, REVMARK, @dallasulc.com. Feel free to use it. We're here every Wednesday, folks. Every Wednesday at 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern Time for Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. Also, Sundays at 3 p.m., we have our service, which we call Exploring Your Faith Live with Bishop Mark, because that's exactly what we're doing in our services. We're exploring your faith. And we have the Bishop's Round Table also after that on Sundays. That's at 3 p.m. And you can go to dallasulc.online.church to see that. And I encourage you to come in and check out our church services. But of course, next Wednesday, we'll be back at 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern Time for Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. I have enjoyed this one. I hope you did too. And I hope that it brought a little clarity to both sides of this argument for you. And so you can make your own decisions, use your own brain, and decide for yourself what's right and wrong by being educated and understanding that it's not all one way or the other. It's not all one person says. It's not what the other person says. I found that there's always three sides to a story. There's this person's, and there's this person's, and then there's the truth. Sometimes you have to look at it that way, folks. So, until next Wednesday at 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern Time, I want you to have a wonderful week, and I bid you a good night. See you next week.
Thank you for watching Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. Please join us next Wednesday at 6:30, 5:30 Eastern Time right here for another episode of Your Path Live with Bishop Mark. God bless you and have a great week.